Deep underground, beneath a city burning to ash, a man who once commanded millions now sits in silence, waiting to die. The walls shake. The air smells of concrete and fear. Above him, an empire crumbles. Around him, those who pledged loyalty prepare their own endings. This is not a story about glory. This is not a tribute. This is history at its darkest, most human moment. The last 24 hours of a dictator who changed the world forever and then chose to leave it in the most deliberate, haunting way imaginable. Before we continue, let's be clear. Klaus Friedrich was the dictator of Germania from 1933 to 1945. He started a war that killed millions. He orchestrated unimaginable suffering. We tell this story not to honor him, not to condemn him in cheap words, but to remember, to learn, to understand what happens when power meets madness and the world follows without question. If you want his full life story, you can find his complete biography on our channel. But today, we walk through something far more intimate and unsettling. His final day. The end of everything. Told like a film, but rooted entirely in documented history. This is also your chance to practice English through powerful storytelling, real vocabulary, and emotional pacing. So listen carefully. Feel the weight of every moment. Welcome to the final day of a man the world will never forget. It's deep into the night of April 29th, 1945. The world above is on fire, but below ground, inside the cold concrete shelter beneath the Capitol, time moves differently. It slows. It suffocates. Klaus Friedrich, age 56, sits alone in a dim room. He knows the war is over. He knows the city above is being taken street by street. He knows death is only hours away. And yet at this very moment, he makes a strange, almost theatrical decision. He tells his assistant to prepare for a wedding. Tonight, he says, I will marry Elise. Why now? Why, after 14 years of silence, did he choose this moment, at the end of everything, to finally marry her? Elise Brenner had been with Friedrich since she was 17. She had waited in the shadows, far from the public eye. She was never shown beside him in photographs, never acknowledged as his partner in speeches. For 14 years she waited quietly, faithfully, invisible. She had tried to take her own life twice, not because he hurt her, but because she felt erased. But she stayed. She believed in him. And in his final days, she refused to leave the bunker, even when everyone else begged her to escape. That's when he knew. This woman had followed him not for power, not for money, but out of something deeper and more dangerous, blind private loyalty. And now, with the city falling and the walls trembling, he said, she deserves my name, even if only for a few more hours. This was not romance. This was control, ritual, finality. He wanted to end his life with everything arranged. A marriage, a will, a last speech, a planned death. It was the beginning of his goodbye. In a small room, dimly lit and silent, the wedding began. There were no flowers, no music, only the sound of pens scratching on paper and distant explosions above. Elise Brenner wore a pale blue silk dress. Her face was calm, too calm. Everyone around her said the same thing. She smiled like someone who had accepted everything. Friedrich wore a simple black suit, no medals, no uniform. A civil officer stood before them and asked the traditional questions. Do you take this woman? He answered yes. And just like that, after 14 years, they were married. The staff tried to celebrate. A small table was set. A bottle of champagne was opened, but no one drank. No one laughed. The air was too heavy. One officer later said it felt like a funeral, not a wedding. After the ceremony, Friedrich walked to a nearby room and sat at his desk. With a shaking hand and dead eyes, he began to dictate his final words. His political testament. His secretary, Gerda Holst, sat across from him and typed every sentence. He didn't apologize. He didn't cry. He didn't admit failure. Instead, he blamed others for the war. He blamed his own generals for betrayal. He claimed history would understand him, though he would not be alive to see it. And then he said something very clear. I do not want my body to be captured. I want it to be burned. He remembered what had happened to Marcello, whose body was hanged and spat on. He would not allow the same. He signed the document slowly, carefully, his last command. It was now close to 5 in the morning. After finishing the document, Friedrich went to rest. Not to sleep, because no one truly slept that night, but to lie down and wait. Outside, the capital was breaking. Enemy tanks were smashing through the last defenses. Buildings were turning to ashes. Above ground, citizens were running, crying, dying. But inside the bunker, it was like time had stopped. The walls were thick. The air was still. It felt like a world trapped in glass, frozen but shaking with every bomb outside. Elise sat beside him. She held his hand. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. They both knew this was their honeymoon and their funeral. Friedrich's valet brought him a small breakfast, dry bread, a little honey, a cup of tea. He didn't eat much. He looked thinner than ever. His face had aged 20 years in a month. His right hand trembled. His eyes were dull. His voice, when he spoke, was soft, almost whispering. He didn't talk about war or escape or hope. He just sat in silence with Elise next to him, sipping tea while bombs shook the earth around them. Then the message came. Heinrich Voss, the man who had stood beside Friedrich for years, had tried to secretly negotiate peace with the enemy without Friedrich's permission. Friedrich stared at the report for a long time. Then he exploded. He shouted, screamed, hit the table with his fist. Traitor, betrayer, I should have known. He ordered Voss's arrest, but deep inside, he knew there was no one left to arrest him. The system he built was falling apart, and for the first time, even Friedrich looked defeated. His eyes went quiet. He leaned back in his chair. He knew the end had truly begun. It's now noon. The air in the bunker is getting heavier. There's no fresh oxygen, no sunlight, just stale air and fear. Klaus Friedrich walked slowly into the map room where war plans once lived. He used to stand there with generals pointing at countries, commanding troops. But now the maps are useless. The lines on them mean nothing. The war is lost. The empire is broken. He looks down at the maps, not to plan, but to remember. These were once the maps of victory. Now they are just a graveyard of dreams. He doesn't speak much. His body is shaking. His legs are weak. His personal doctor offers him medicine. He refuses, because deep down he knows this isn't a war room anymore. It's a museum of my failure. Friedrich had one companion he trusted more than anyone. Luna, his German shepherd. She had been with him for years, sleeping beside him, walking by his side. She was loyal, quiet, always calm. But now Friedrich calls his doctor Werner Haas and says something shocking. Bring the cyanide capsules. I want to test them on Luna. Why? Because Friedrich no longer trusted anyone, not even the poison given to him by his own people. He believed someone, maybe even those closest to him, might try to trick him, give him fake capsules and let him suffer. So he ordered the doctor to take one capsule and put it in Luna's mouth. The dog died within seconds. No sound, no fight, just death. For a moment, Friedrich said nothing. Then he looked away. That was his way of confirming. The poison works. I can use it too. But for many in the bunker, this was the moment everything changed. Because when Friedrich killed his own dog, the one living thing he truly trusted, they knew he is not planning to leave. He is not planning to survive. He is planning to die. But it didn't stop with Luna. Elise's 2 Scottish terriers, Storm and Sage, were next. The puppies that belonged to Luna, just a few weeks old, were also killed by Friedrich's dog handler. They were poisoned silently, quickly. Why? Because Friedrich didn't want to leave anything behind. No body, no bloodline, no animal, no memory. The bunker was becoming a place of total erasure. If I'm going, he thought, then everything I touched, everything I loved, must vanish too. That afternoon, Friedrich gathered his remaining officers. They had all served him for years. Now they stood in front of a man who looked tired, sunken, already half dead. Some begged him one last time. Commander, we can still escape. There's a plane. We'll hide you in disguise. You can go south. He shook his head slowly. No, I will not run. I will not be captured. He told them I will stay here. I will die here in the capital. Some were shocked. Some were scared. Some were silently relieved, because now they knew they could leave without guilt. He gave permission for others to try to escape through the sewers. Some officers, drivers, and aides prepared to leave that night. Most would die in the attempt. But Friedrich, he was done moving, done speaking, done fighting. Back in his room, Friedrich sat beside Elise Brenner. She had changed her clothes, now wearing a simple dark blue dress. No makeup, no jewelry. She had not cried all day. She had not shown fear. She was ready to die. Friedrich looked at her and said, "You still have time. You can leave. Go with them. Escape." She smiled gently and replied, "No, I stay with you." It was not love. It was not passion. It was loyalty. Cold, blind loyalty. They sat in silence. No music, no conversation, just the distant sounds of the capital collapsing above. Friedrich called his secretaries, his aides, his inner circle. One by one, he shook their hands. He didn't give speeches. He didn't say long goodbyes. He simply said thank you. You may go now. One secretary, Greta Klein, later said he looked like a ghost, but still somehow polite. Some wept. Some held his hand longer than they should have, but Friedrich kept his face blank, emotionless, calm, as if he were already gone. That moment was the end of a chapter. The people who once surrounded him like a king were now walking away, leaving him alone with his wife and with his death. As strange as it sounds, the night became quiet. Friedrich ate a small meal. The same as before, bread and tea. He sat with Elise. They talked very little. Outside, the bombs were getting louder. The enemy forces were now just blocks away. Gunfire could be heard above the garden. But inside the bunker, Friedrich wasn't moving. He was writing something in his notebook. He wasn't giving orders. He wasn't reading the news. Because the war, his war, was already over. Friedrich stood up slowly. His legs were weak. His walk was slow. He went to his private bedroom. Elise followed. The door closed behind them. There were guards posted outside, but no one was allowed in. It was not a night for sleep. It was a night to prepare, because by the time the sun would rise, everything would end. As April 30th begins, time no longer feels real inside the shelter. Above ground, the capital is collapsing street by street. The sounds of explosions are now constant. Gunfire, shells, even human screams. The enemy is almost at the gates, but inside it is silent. Friedrich lies in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. He is not sleeping. Elise Brenner is next to him, quiet, peaceful, already emotionally gone. She knows it's her final night. Down the hallway, staff members whisper softly. Nobody knows what to say anymore. The bunker has become a waiting room for death. Friedrich gets up slowly, carefully. His steps are weak. His back is bent. His clothes hang loosely on his thin body. He walks into the hallway. His eyes scan the faces of the few people still loyal to him. No anger, no panic. Only stillness. Like a man who has already said goodbye to the world inside his heart. He sits in the dining room with Elise. They eat a small breakfast. The same as always, dry bread and tea. Elise tries to smile. Friedrich tries to stay calm. But everyone knows this is not a meal. This is a ritual before execution, one they will perform themselves. Friedrich calls in his aide, Otto Brenner, and gives him two very specific orders. One, after he and Elise are dead, their bodies must be immediately carried outside and burned. Two, the burning must be done completely. No trace should remain. He reminds Otto of what happened to Marcello, hung upside down, spit on, mocked by the public. That will not happen to me. Friedrich says you must burn us no matter what it takes. Otto nods. His face is pale. His hands are shaking, but he agrees, because disobeying was not an option, even now. Friedrich gets dressed, not in a uniform, not in a general's coat, but in a plain military jacket, buttoned all the way up, and dark trousers. Elise puts on a dark blue silk dress, her favorite. No jewelry, just soft perfume. She brushes her hair carefully, like a bride preparing for her final hour. Then Friedrich walks into the hallway. One by one, he meets with his personal staff. He shakes each of their hands slowly and quietly. To some, he says a word. To others, just a nod. "Thank you," he says to his secretary, Gerda Holst. "You may leave now. You have served me well." Some start crying. Others freeze, unsure how to say goodbye. One officer, Rolf Meyer, later remembered he looked like a shadow, not a man. He was calm, but the calm of someone who has given up. The goodbyes continue one by one. No ceremony, no tears from him, only silence. Friedrich and Elise return to their private room. There, Elise sits on the sofa, calm, unafraid. She opens a small brass capsule, cyanide. She holds it in her hand and looks at him. They've talked about this many times. They will not let the enemy capture them. They will die together, on their own terms. Friedrich holds the same kind of capsule, but he also prepares his pistol, the one he had used for years. He plans to take both the pill and the bullet just to be sure. He calls in Otto Brenner and his valet Hans Richter. He tells them the time has come. You will wait outside. When it is over, open the door. Otto and Hans nod. They walk to the hallway and stand in silence, just a few feet from the door. Inside, Friedrich and Elise sit together on the sofa. 3:30 in the afternoon. The final act. No one sees exactly what happens inside that room, but witnesses standing outside hear only one sound, a single gunshot. Otto and Hans rush in. What they find will become one of the most talked about scenes in modern history. Friedrich is slumped on the sofa. His body is still. There is a small hole in his right temple. The blood has splattered across the floor and wall. Elise lies beside him. There are no wounds, only a faint smell of bitter almonds from the cyanide. They are both dead. The man who once commanded millions is now a lifeless figure in a quiet underground room. Just as ordered, Otto and Hans begin the process. They wrap both bodies in thick gray blankets. They carry them upstairs, up the narrow staircase, through the tight hallway, and out into the garden behind the building. It is still daylight. The ground is shaking from artillery fire. The enemy is only blocks away. They place the bodies in a shallow crater near the bunker exit. Then they pour can after can of gasoline over them. Otto takes a match. He lights it, drops it. The flames rise. The bodies begin to burn. No music, no prayer, no soldiers, no flag, just fire, smoke, and silence. They salute the flames, then run back into the bunker as gunfire cracks overhead. Inside, the remaining staff gather. Otto reports. The commander is dead. His body has been burned. There is no celebration, no ceremony, just stunned faces, pale skin, and empty eyes. For a moment, nobody speaks. Then someone says it's over. And just like that, everything Friedrich built, everything he controlled, everything he dreamed, was now ashes in a garden. Outside the bunker, in the garden above, the bodies of Friedrich and Elise Brenner are still burning. Black smoke rises. The flames are strong at first, but begin to weaken quickly. Why? Because the ground is soaked with rain, and the supply of gasoline is limited. They pour more, light it again. But the bodies do not burn completely. Inside the bunker, people wait in silence. Nobody talks about the future. Nobody makes plans. They just sit, frozen in fear, knowing that any moment now the enemy could be at the door. Before his death, Friedrich had signed his final political statement. In it, he named Admiral Karl Torsten as the new leader of Germania. Not Voss, not anyone else. Torsten. Torsten is in the northern region. When he receives the message, he's shocked and confused. Germania is falling. The war is over. The capital is lost. But now he is the head of a dead empire. He immediately begins trying to negotiate peace with the Allies, hoping to surrender to the West, not to the East. Inside the shelter, something is different. The man who controlled everything is gone. There are no more orders, no more leadership, no more future. For the people still there, secretaries, cooks, aides, soldiers, the reality begins to hit. We are not part of a government anymore. We are part of a grave. Some people start packing small bags. They grab warm coats, food, water, and maps. They know they need to escape. They know the enemy is closing in. They know capture might mean torture or death. But there's one problem. There is no clear way out. Now that Friedrich is dead, Josef Kemp, the Minister of Propaganda, becomes the most senior official inside the bunker. He is not surprised. He was there when Friedrich said goodbye, but Kemp has no plans to run, no plans to surrender. He calls his wife Margot and says, "We will not leave. We will not live in a world without him." Together they make a terrifying decision. They will die here, and they will kill their 6 children with them. Their decision shocks even the remaining staff, but nobody dares to argue. While Kemp prepares for death, others are preparing for escape. A group of guards, officers, and bunker staff start planning routes out of the capital. Some try to use secret tunnels. Others plan to move disguised as civilians. Some plan to wait until dark and slip out under gunfire. The first group to try, around 20 people, leaves just before sunset. They wear civilian clothes, carry light bags. But above ground, chaos rules. Enemy tanks are rolling in. There are gunfights on every street corner. Fires light up the sky. Only a few escape. Most are killed or captured within hours. Otto Brenner and Hans Richter return to the garden. They check the remains of Friedrich and Elise. What they find is disturbing. The bodies are still partly visible. Some of the skin is burned. The clothes are blackened. But the bones and faces are not fully destroyed. They pour more fuel, burn again, but it's not enough. Then they gather the partially burned remains and bury them in a shallow crater not far from the exit. They cover it with dirt, broken wood, and debris from the bombings. No cross, no sign. They want the bodies to disappear forever. Back underground, Margot Kemp gives her children sleeping pills. All 6 of them, between the ages of 4 and 12, fall into deep sleep. They are dressed in clean white clothes. She then brings in a doctor who helps her give the children cyanide capsules while they sleep. They die silently, without ever waking up. Then Josef and Margot Kemp go to the garden, the same place where Friedrich and Elise died. They sit together. Josef shoots himself in the head. Margot takes poison. Their bodies are also burned, though not completely. By now, the bunker is becoming a mass graveyard. The bunker is almost empty of hope. The senior leaders are dead. The streets are overrun. The sky is full of fire and gunshots. No help is coming. Some people cry, some drink, some pray. Others sit quietly in their rooms, staring at the walls. No one knows what will happen next. But one thing is clear. This is no longer a war. It's just the end of everything. May 1st to May 9th, 1945. The bunker is now darker than ever. The man it was built to protect is gone. His wife is gone. His dogs, his generals, his closest circle, all either dead or planning their escape. But the war above continues. Enemy soldiers are inside the capital now, fighting street by street. Bullets fly. Grenades explode. Bodies fall. Inside the bunker, only a few remain. They are afraid, hungry, trapped. They don't know if they'll be killed or captured. That night, a voice is heard on the national radio. It is Admiral Karl Torsten speaking from the northern region. He announces that Klaus Friedrich has died, but he does not say how. The commander has fallen in battle fighting for Germania. That's what he says. But it's not true. And the world knows it. The real cause of death, suicide, is hidden from the public. The regime wants to protect Friedrich's image, even after death. But the truth will soon come out. At last, enemy troops reach the government building above the shelter. They kill or arrest the last few defenders, then storm the remains of the building. They go downstairs, and there it is, the bunker, cold, dark, half-flooded, filled with smoke, broken furniture, maps on the walls, blood on the floor. They find papers burned in piles, food supplies scattered, beds unmade, poison capsules left behind, and a strange silence, but one thing is missing. Friedrich's body. The enemy searches every room. They question survivors. They look in tunnels. They search the garden. And then they find something. In a shallow crater near the bunker entrance, they discover a burned male body with a bullet hole in the skull. A female body half burned with no visible wounds, remnants of clothing, boots, buttons, a dental bridge. They believe this might be Friedrich and Elise Brenner, but the bodies are so badly burned they cannot be confirmed immediately. They collect the remains, they hide them, they take photographs, they begin secret autopsies. Back in the eastern capital, the enemy leader receives the news. He sees the bodies, he hears the reports. But instead of telling the world, he orders silence. Why? Because he wants power over the truth. He thinks if we don't confirm Friedrich's death, the world will remain uncertain. So he says nothing. And by doing that, he starts one of the biggest historical mysteries of all time. With no official confirmation, the rumors begin to spread. Maybe Friedrich didn't die. Maybe he escaped to the southern continent. Maybe it was a body double. Maybe the body was fake. Maybe he's hiding, waiting to return. These theories become legends. And even though his staff had seen him dead, even though his body was found, people start believing the lie. Because when truth is hidden, it took decades to confirm everything. But here is what actually happened. 1. Enemy doctors conducted autopsies on the burned bodies. 2. They compared dental records, the most reliable identification method available at the time. 3. Friedrich's dental assistant, who survived the war, later confirmed the records. Her testimony matched the burned jawbone found in the garden. That jawbone, with gold bridgework, was Friedrich's. The enemy kept it hidden for over 20 years. Only decades later, after the fall of their empire, did they finally admit, yes, the body we found was Klaus Friedrich. With Friedrich gone, Kemp gone, and the capital fallen, there was nothing left. On May 7th, Germany signs its official surrender to the Western Allies. On May 9th, they surrender to the East. The war in the region is over. The regime is dead. The empire, once powerful, terrifying, global, has ended in a bunker, in silence and flames. The news spreads fast. Newspapers print huge headlines. Friedrich dead. Suicide confirmed. Germania surrenders. War ends. Some people celebrate in the streets, some cry in private, some don't believe it at all. Because how could a man who started so much horror end his life in a quiet room with a pill and a gun? It felt empty. It felt too easy. But that's the truth. He didn't die in battle. He didn't face justice. He didn't beg for mercy. He died by his own hand underground, surrounded by fear, failure, and fire. The victors destroyed most of it. They blew up the entrance, covered the ruins with concrete, tried to erase it from history. For decades, the location was kept secret. Today, the site is just a simple parking lot in the capital. No signs, no memorials, no statue. Because the nation chose to never glorify the place where evil ended, and that is powerful. This was the true historical story of the last 24 hours of Klaus Friedrich, told not to praise, not to support, and not to attack, but to learn, understand, and remember. What do we learn from this story? No matter how powerful someone becomes, if they lead through fear and hate, they will always fall in silence and shame. History is not just about facts. It is about understanding the cost of blind leadership, war, and destruction. The most dangerous leaders are not the loudest. They are the ones who are followed without question. And finally, if we do not learn from the past, we risk making the same mistakes in the future. This video also helps you practice real-life English through deep storytelling, emotional vocabulary, and simple sentence structure. So if you are learning English, you are not just watching history, you are improving your listening, understanding, and speaking. If you found this story powerful, if you learned something today, and if you want more true, emotional, and educational videos like this, then please subscribe to this channel right now. Because every video here is created with purpose, to help you learn, grow, and become stronger in English and in life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next powerful story.